No gun-free zones.
Okay, so more guns.
Yep. Can't fight fire with water. You gotta fight fire with fire.
You can't fight fire with water?
Yeah. Depends on what's in the fire.
They specifically do fight fire with water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. The right has spoken, even in the wake of the shooting against former President Donald Trump, aka Toupee Fiasco. Republicans continue to oppose stricter gun control measures with great points like you can't fight fire with water. You can only fight fire with fire. I hate to make the extra obvious point that not only do you fight fire with water, like the good liars point out, but also adding fire to fire makes a bigger fire. You in fact never fight fire with fire, but there's that. You would think a close call like we saw last month in Pennsylvania would be enough to cause some to reconsider gun control measures, or at the very least string out a metaphor that makes sense for your undying love of military equipment in the hands of just literally anybody who wants it, or a whole bunker full of them. But no, despite Trump nearly getting shot, or getting grazed in the ear. I got an ouchie in the ear. Okay, I got an ouchie in the ear. My ear's been terribly... It looks perfect again already. Whatever happened to him. Republicans still say, despite their hero being whatever, that guns are not the problem. But of course, there was a human being that died in that audience, and 2 that were critically injured. But no, guns are not the problem. How does MAGA feel after that shooting? Take a look.
Second Amendment shall not be infringed. That's my stance.
Well, I absolutely support our Second Amendment right to the fullest.
There is no explanation that all of them accept for why that wasn't covered.
Gun reform, when you talk about a gun reform, we need to deal with people who have mental illness.
It's not the guns that kill, it's people that do, and it's not being addressed.
Obviously, the Secret Service takes much of the blame. They deserve much of the blame for allowing a shooter that close to the former president. That's insane. But it's just odd there isn't even a second thought about the role of the firearm. The thing that does the shooting. Because they think that having gun control won't ever affect people, but you need to be able to address the people. But I don't think people with mental health issues are going to go away either. So there maybe has to be progress made on all fronts. That's one way to look at it if you're using like a rational brain. But in this country, there's obviously no simple solution to solving the gun control debate because the right does not want to do it and the left does, and we're at odds completely. Even though the Trump administration, for the record, did ban bump stocks, which the Supreme Court did just overturn. So now guns can be made into basically machine guns with a bump stock being added to it. So that's not ideal. And he also pushed for red flag laws, which are some of the things that can help fix the gun control problem. You see, Trump was shot and Republicans refuse to acknowledge that shootings will continue to happen, even at the highest levels. And they continue to push for solutions that will obviously not work. If the Secret Service with shooters on other rooftops nearby and the best security protocol in the country can't stop somebody from shooting the president, the former president, how do they think that teachers with guns are going to be effective at stopping school shooters? Just for example, or Kevin James, how's he going to be successful stopping somebody going into a mall when all he has is a Segway and a bunch of funny one-liners? You can't. But from that last clip, there's one that bothers me the most. It's this one.
U.S. Constitution explicitly says the right to bear arms shall not be infringed.
That's Bob Ide, Wyoming state senator wearing a cowboy hat in, modern life. But that's not what the Constitution explicitly says. That's part of what it says. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So you're reading part of the sentence. You can't not have the well-regulated militia part of the sentence included in what you're quoting. That's like saying you're quoting somebody saying, ask not what your country can do, ask what you can do for your country, and saying, look, John F. Kennedy said, ask what your country can do for you. If you just drop the word not and then the back half of the sentence. But that's not how quotation works. You can't change the meaning and then quote it as though you're the one that's correct on the issue. Do you understand how that works?
Yeah.
But there was an article in Politico on this issue after the Trump shooting that I think pinpointed the real problem in how people on the right in this country just do not see it correctly. Kathy Alson, and I quote, Kathy Alson, a nurse attorney and Texas delegate, said the Saturday shooting hit close to home because the man who was killed was sitting where she has sat at multiple Trump rallies. Still, she said, restricting guns isn't the answer. Quote, those of us that are law-abiding citizens won't have guns, and those that aren't law-abiding citizens will have guns. You can't do gun control, she concludes. This is what the entire problem is. Gun control does not mean taking away your guns, despite the very juvenile and inaccurate fear-mongering that the right always does on practically every issue to obscure what the actual facts of the issue are. I would never support gun control that took away your right to own a gun. I intend to buy a gun at some point in the near future. I would like to own a gun. Many of my friends who are liberals own guns. Some of them own several. There's nothing wrong with owning guns. Gun control just means controlling them to some degree to help reduce random murder. To close all background check loopholes should not be an issue. If you have nothing in your background that should stop you from owning a gun, you'll still get your gun. If you're not crazy, if you're not somebody with a violent background, then you're good. And if you are, you get to just shoot rubber bands at people through your fingers like that. Pew! That style. It's that simple. So yeah, you can do gun control. Oh boy, people's brains. I'm Ben Gleib for Rebel HQ. You can follow me at Ben Gleib on Instagram for lots more. Thank you.